Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Theravada Buddhism series, Dhamma talk number 89. Kamma-Result condition. Vipaka Paccayo. All the activities we had done in the past life, previous lives, in other words, the karma of past lives, give result in the next life. Okay, as soon as we say next life, of course there's a being, a body, and a mind. So we leave the body part out, the mentality, the mind part. And the result from the mentality departments are feeling, vedana, perception, sanya, mental formation, sankhara, and consciousness, citta, 4 of them. These 4 are mutually related by Kamma-Result condition. What it means is feeling, perception, and mental formation supports and maintain consciousness. And also, consciousness supports and maintain feeling, perception, and mental formation. And feeling and perception also support the mental formation and consciousness, and vice versa. That's what it means by mutually related. These 4 mentalities arise due to the past life's karma, and they are mutually related. And that process is the Kamma-Result condition. Vipaka Paccayo, also known as resultant condition, also known as maturity condition. But Kamma-Result conditions give you a fully rounded meaning, especially for people who are not familiar with the subject. Okay, just to look a little deeper into this process, let's use an example there to understand clearly. Okay, we have grapes, ripened grapes. To get ripened grapes requires 4 stages. Of course, there's a plant, grapevines. And then From there, the first stage is flowering, blossom flowering. And then after that flowering, clusters of little grapes, more like a little seed, little bigger than the sesame seed, but cluster, maybe tens or even hundreds of them came out. That's a clustering state. And then slowly they grow and they grow. So let's call it developing stage. It become quite big. The size, we know the size of the grape, but it's still green and tough. That's a stage 3. And then finally, ripening stage. The grapes become ripe to pick up and to consume. So, to get a ripe grapes, it has to go through 4 stages, including the ripening stage. So, that's very easy for us to understand. So, just like grapes, wholesome and unwholesome resultants consciousness. Wholesome resultant consciousness, unwholesome resultant consciousness. They also need 4 steps or 4 stages. And they are volition, first stage. Volition, cetana. Second one is life activities. Life activities. Kamma-Bhava in Pali. And then the third one is called sign, nimitta. And the fourth is maturity, moment. So they need a volition moment, life activity moment, sign moment, and maturity moment for resultant consciousness to arise, whether it is wholesome or unwholesome. So this maturity moment is like a ripening grapes, the 4th level. So you can correlate stage by stage. So let's see stage by stage. The first stage or the step is volition moment. In Pali is called Cetana Vutta. Cetana Vutta. Cetana is volition, Vutta is moment. Cetana Vutta. It consists of 3 mini moments. A moment has 3 sub-moments. Of course, we all know they are birth, existence, or birth, decay, and death, beginning, middle, and end of that moment. We have 3 mini moments. And this volition moment arises when one desires to do wholesome thing or unwholesome thing. Wholesome thing, let's say charity, donation. When you do that, that volition arises. Unwholesome thing, killing, torturing, that volition arises. A desire, a strong desire to do something, that's volition. It's just resembled to that flowering stage of the grapes. the flower blooms. This volition is the blooming, just come into existence of an action. But all these volitions, they arise and they disappear. Just a moment, that's all it lasts. That's all it takes. And then once it disappears, it's a second stage coming in. Second stage is called life activity moment. Pali is Kamma-Result. Completely is Kamma-Result. And this life activity moment occurs after the disappearance of volition, the next stage. And this is the action-packed phase, but driven by that volition. Without that volition, it doesn't happen, it wouldn't happen. So it is just like a cluster of little mini grapes appearing right after the flowering stage. But the power of volition remains. Even though there's a life activity, the power of that volition, desire, remains. The potential of that volition remains and keep on going. To understand that, let's say there's a judge at a court. The judge makes a sentence on a convict. You see, so and so has to go to jail for 12 years. And once you have made a sentence, the court closed and everybody walked out. It's finished. But the power, the potential of his sentence keeps on going. All the steps that going to jail for 12 years keep on going and going and going. And it is the power of that sentence carries on with all the activities. Just like that, the power of that volition keep on driving. Even though volition already disappeared after a moment, but the power keeps on going throughout all the activities. That can make very a clear point to this activity and potential of volition, karma. Now, after the second step, the third step. The third step is seeing one of the three signs before the demise of a being. Before death, the person sees signs called namitta. Sign is namitta. So that third stage is called sign moment. Namitta vutta, sign moment. So even in the signs, there are three kinds of sign. One would definitely experience before death, the last moment of death. So what are these three signs? They are called Kan sign, Karma sign, and Destiny sign. 3 kinds of signs. So, what is Kan sign? Let's say a person did a lot of wholesome things. That person is quite happy to help people, to donate charity, in other words, got the good things for the public and other people most of the time of his life. If you just do those things in such a way, it becomes like his habit. His habit is helping and giving others. And if that's the case, it is most likely to remember those events before his death. That remembering of thinking about those things before death. What he or she has done. That is called Kan sign. Let's say the opposite one is a hitman. A person lived throughout his life as a hitman. And if that's the case, near death, he will be thinking about one or some of the hit events he had taken place. That is Kan sign. Okay? The second one is called Kamma sign. Kamma sign. Kamma sign is the same thing, similar but except that the person doesn't think about it, remember about it, but the person saw pictures. Picture is an event where he is donating a monastery. Okay, actually, you might see a picture of the monastery the person donated, or the people that worked together of that event. Just a snapshot, a picture of what that person had done in his life that is close to the person's heart. And negatively too, you can think all the negative events. So the key point is, saw a snapshot of his life that is very intense. After he saw that, or she saw that, died. And that's called Karma sign. Kan sign is in thought form. Karma sign is in picture form of the events taken place throughout the life, or one event that is close, intense for that person. And the third one is destiny sign. Destiny sign is one foresees related images of the realms going to be reborn. Let's say if one's going to be reborn in a human realm, might see a womb or a person or a group of people, okay, that's associated with the human. Or if he sees like fire and dogs, bulldogs, angry dogs, and so on, that's going to be reborn in hell. And if one see like very pleasant musics and sounds and all the people are totally enjoying, that's Deva realms, Those kind of things, related signs of the destiny that you are going to be reborn. You see that. So based on that, one's reborn there in that place. So those are the three signs one sees before death, one or the other. That's why in a Buddhist country there's a tradition there, especially knowledgeable people about these events. What they do was, if they are around a dying person before death, they try to skillfully redirect the minds of the dying person. Maybe they will play a sutra, or they will talk about things that they have done together, the charity event, meditation event, sort of trying to draw the dying person's attention to those wholesome, good events, so that hopefully that their last thought before death will dwell on it. That means will be reborn in a better realms. So those signs are very important. Sometimes your whole life you might be doing a lot of good things, but if you see something bad near death, then it can go to the wrong direction. It's a very tricky process. And this is the third stage, seeing the sign before death. And the final stage is called maturity moment or resultant moment. Vipaka, Vutta, the ripening of the grapes. At that maturity moment, relinking consciousness or rebirth consciousness, one and the same, arises to connect the past lives and the present lives. That's why it's called relinking, linking the past and the present. But to reach to the stage, you need the previous three stages. Okay? First is volition. Secondly, life activities. Thirdly, death sign. And after that is the next life, rebirth consciousness or maturity moment. That's why Vipaka, Paccayo is, some people translate it as maturity moment, maturity condition, because that's where it matures everything one has done in the past. Okay, now we are talking about birth and death and last life and present life and so on. We should have a little bit of clarity on these past and present lives and so on. Instead of going into detail, we will approach this through definition. These dying and past and present. And then one view in this world is called eternity view. In Pali called Sassata Ditti. It's a belief that consciousness of the past life transfer to the next life. From life to life to life, the same consciousness transfer. Transmigration of soul, or transmigration of consciousness. Eternity view. As it keeps on going, it never ends. That's why it's an eternity view. And also that soul or consciousness never dies. That's why it's called eternity view. Whenever soul never dies, that's falls under eternity view. Whatever the religion may be, doesn't matter. If it doesn't die, if it doesn't terminate, finish, it is eternity view. Sasata Ditti. Another one is annihilation view. Annihilation view. What it means is strict and simple. Once a person dies, nothing remains. There's no soul. The bodies go round the ground, become dirt. There's that soul finished. When it's born to the beginning of the life, it comes from nowhere. It just happened. And then when it dies, it's finished. Annihilation view. Some people, they believe that way. After I die, there's nothing. And there's a third view. Let's call it the Buddhist perspective. Is that a new life or consciousness, a new consciousness occurs after the end of the previous life. Yeah, previous life exists, previous consciousness exists, but whatever is reborn is not the same consciousness. It is a new consciousness. So, these consciousness of the past life and the consciousness of the new life, the two are connected through cause and effect. It is a causal relationship. The example given is one shouted yell in a cave. When one yell very loud, there's a sound goes out. And after a while, that sound comes back, which is an echo. You hear the same sound again. You go, hey, a little later, another, hey, exactly the same. But those two are not the same sound. They are two different sounds. But the second sound cannot exist without the first sound. They are connected through cause and effect. But the sounds are not the same sound. It's a different sound. Like that, past life and present life, the consciousness are connected. They are not the same, they are different, but they are connected. One cannot exist without the other. The second cannot exist without the first. Because the Buddhist perspective, everything is related through cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. So, in general, three types of concept, belief in the previous life, or this life, or that life. So, we can have a clarity on what we are talking about. Similarly, a new life arises due to volitional activities of the past life. Now we are a little more precise. You do a lot of things in the past life with your volition. Those activities, even though volition dies, the activity is finished, the power remains, the potential remains, and a new life arises in the next life. Just like the judge and his sentence and how it was carried out. The Buddhist belief, many have started with a vague understanding. No, the Buddhists may have belief, may have started with a vague understanding of this concept. But practicing mindfulness insight meditation can attain clarity through direct experience, which is wisdom. Okay, we are talking about it now. It's a theory, a concept. Oh, we believe because it makes sense, and so on. We believe because we want to believe. That's a real fact. But if you practice, the Buddha gave us a technique what to practice. Mindfulness, insight meditation, or Vipassana. We can accurately experience and understand this, what life or consciousness that we are talking about. You can verify yourself the concept. Karma or volitional activity. They are slightly different but considered the same. Karma is the activities, the action, but the actions cannot arise without the volition or desire or intent. That's why it is quite often used as one and the same, volition and karma. Volitional activity is the cause. Karma is the cause. And Vipaka, or you can call it rebirth consciousness, or resultant consciousness, is the effect. Karma is the cause, Vipaka is the effect. Life activities, volitional activities are the cause, and the rebirth consciousness, relinking consciousness is the effect. Beings have gone through countless rebirths. Resultant consciousness at the first moment of a new life is called relinking consciousness. In general, you can call it resultant consciousness anytime. It cannot be wrong. But we give a specific name for that resultant consciousness. If it is the first one that started in a life, we call it relinking consciousness or rebirth consciousness. Just naming process, just to clarify things. And after that relinking consciousness, after that, pleasant and unpleasant both. Seeing consciousness, hearing consciousness, smelling consciousness, tasting consciousness, touching consciousness, and intending consciousness, intention, both pleasant and unpleasant nature. They are all resultant consciousness, Vipaka citta. Relinking consciousness is also resultant consciousness. All these seeing, hearing, and so on are also resultant consciousness. The first moment of seeing, the first moment of hearing, that is the resultant consciousness. This consciousness arises by engaging and experiencing the good and bad objects available in this life due to past life karma. What it means is, if a person have a very good life, that one will be reborn in a safe, secure, rich country, and in general you will have a lot of pleasant things come to your life throughout the life. And if your karma is bad, you'll be reborn in a country where there is not much security, a lot of war and torture, killing, starvation. You'll be born there. So throughout the life you will experience many, many, many bad events and objects. That is what karma does. Wholesome karma and unwholesome karma. That's how it is defined and streamlined. That's a fact, you can't change it. But the Buddha taught us mindfulness, insight, meditation. If you practice that, you can reduce, whichever country you are in, doesn't matter. If you practice it seriously, you can reduce the intensity of suffering. All the influence, emotional influence of the pleasure of life. You don't get too high and too low. And even if there's a lot of suffering, the event might be the same, but their mental attitude is different because of their practice. In other words, you don't suffer as much like others. One can overcome unpleasant feeling such as pain, numbness, aching, itching, drowsiness, and so on by practicing Vipassana meditation. Because among the four mental aggregates that we have discussed before, among the four, consciousness is the leader and most potent one. Of course, there's a painful sensation, there's a perception, and so on going. But if the consciousness is strong and fixed and focused on these things, all these painful feelings and so on take a back seat because the mind, the consciousness is fixed on it, concentrated on it. They take a back seat. But consciousness has to be focusing on them precisely and patiently. And if one is a serious practitioner and reach the stage of the insight of the solution, Bingajnana, at that moment pain is there, but it's constantly dissolving, constantly dissolving. As it is constantly dissolving, there is no pain for that person. That is moment by moment. But in your life too, headaches, shoulder pain, neck pain, joint pain, they quickly disappear. This pops up, you observe it, they are gone. And some yogis, they had dissolved the chronic pain even. Many had become arahants by overwhelming near-death pain with patience. There's a lot of recorded events in the scripture. If one is favoring the body, oh, I'm painful, let's move this way, let's move that way, take a little break. That's favoring the body. The progress of insight will be very slow, plodding. Therefore, at the beginning of a meditation session, a yogi must put a mindset I will observe to overcome all feelings, all the painful feelings, even if it means death. Make a determination, a ditthana, or keep a mindset. With that mindset you sit. In that way, one gains experience of facing unpleasant feeling and is ready when serious illness and disease strikes. And eventually you are at the doorstep of death. You can face it without fear of pain. In that way, one will have a good death sign. If one is struggling with the pain and hating the pain, angry at the pain, you won't have a good death sign. But if one is calm with the pain of death, then one can have a very good death sign. And the Kamma-Result condition of the next life will be a good one. Before we attain Nibbana, we have to go through this life after life after life and keep developing and progressing and grow. May all of you be able to practice mindfulness and sight meditation, and before attaining Nibbana, would you be able to have a good Kamma-Result condition in every life. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you very much.